Today, I want to talk a little bit about what to keep in mind when you're listening to anybody's advice when it comes to stand-up comedy. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask, like always, that you comment, like, and subscribe. That's right. Leave your questions down in the comments. Like the video because it doesn't cost you anything to do it. And subscribe to my channel so you know when I'm putting something new out. Let's get started. What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another Comedy Tip Tuesday. I'm your host, Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. I want to talk about what to keep in mind through all of this, but first, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I got on the last video. I don't mind answering the questions. I will be honest with you when I say that certain questions I can't necessarily answer, and that's just because certain things I'm just not doing right now. So if I'm not a good resource for that, I'll definitely let you know. That way maybe you can check in with somebody else, ask somebody else. Maybe you have a friend that can help you. I don't know. But I just don't want to mislead you and be like, oh yeah, I know everything about everything. Because I definitely don't know everything about everything. Certain things I really haven't been participating in right now. So I wouldn't be the best person to ask. Anyway, first question comes from Hayoke Productions, and that is a question. As someone who considers themselves an open micer, how do I make the transition into gig life? I'm getting a day job in a few months and will finally be able to go out frequently. And with my drive, I hope to see the transition become a reality. Okay, well, I just met you the other night. You were at Ocha Bar for my open mic, and I saw you. You're funny, but it's obvious that you're on the newer side. So until you shake off those, I guess I don't even know if they'd be cobwebs. I think you said that you were performing back home where you're from, and then you just haven't been able to get out a lot lately. But what I would tell you about stand-up comedy is it's not the best way to go if you're in dire straits or you're looking to actually pay bills, especially in the beginning. Because in the beginning, the trajectory of a stand-up comedian is like this. First, you go on the road and you lose money. Then you get better. You will break even. Then you will finally start making money. And sometimes these steps can take longer or shorter to go through depending on what part of the country you're in. I know you're living in Las Vegas right now. I'm going to tell you that right now, Las Vegas isn't necessarily the best for that because we're not close to a lot of things that make a lot of money. Like maybe you can drive to St. George and make a couple of dollars there, or maybe you could drive to Salt Lake City, make a couple of dollars there. But working here in Las Vegas, even regularly, if you're doing all the shows, like when I was doing a lot of local shows, I would use that money for gas, groceries, and cigarettes is what I would use that money for because it just wasn't really a lot of money. You know, even if you're doing the Hilarious 7 every night of the week, I think it paid between $25 and $30 a set. So even if you were to work that all 6 days, you'd still only make between $150 and $180. There's other shows in Las Vegas that pay, but they're usually around that. It's just not the best for like quick money. Stand-up comedy is not right now. So I don't mean to disappoint you. I don't want to let you down. I wish that I could be, but honestly, I'm just trying to be as realistic with you as I possibly can. So, you know, I would say, like I said, if you have a bunch of stuff that needs to get paid right away, stand-up comedy probably isn't the best road for that. Of course, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from reaching for the stars. Reach for the stars. But also, if you ask me, I'll probably give you a dose of reality. And that's what that is. So I answered your question. I hope that helps. Bit writing, who I actually know as well, Ahmed says, another question, how to stay strong and motivated to keep pursuing comedy during all the bombings, early growing pains of comedy. Well, Ahmed, that is the $1 million question, because you just have to sack up and do it is what it is. You know, you're going to go through a fair amount of bombings. I often talk about the time that I did the Black Women's Empowerment Dinner, and I literally cried in the car after that gig. It's not something I'm proud of. I don't like to admit that it really did break me down that way. But the Black Women's Empowerment Dinner that I did when I was first starting out, first they told me they wanted us to be PG. Then they said they were fine with PG-13. Then they come in and say there's 4 pastors in the audience. We're going to need you to make it 100% G. And I was like, I barely had PG-13. And now I'm going to be doing G because there's 4 pastors in the audience. And I bombed. And it was like partly because I was edgy, partly because of my nerves, partly because of not knowing how to handle that situation as a newer comic when last minute I'm told I have to make changes to be G and I barely had PG-13. But it is what it is, and I bombed and I cried in the car. So whatever you have to do to stay motivated and keep your eye on the prize is all you can do. Like whatever coping mechanisms you personally find, employ those regularly. For me, the way that I would do it when I was first starting out was I had made a commitment to myself. And at one point it was like an hour and a half, then it was like 45 minutes. But I would give myself that time to feel sorry for myself, that amount of time to completely go into the wallowing in self-pity. And that's sad to say, but it's what it was. And I'd be like, okay, you will do this for an hour. You'll let yourself be as shitty with yourself as you want to, and then you'll only think of it in the most analytical way possible. You'll think what you can do differently. You'll think what you could say the next time that kind of thing comes up. Also, I've told you this person to person. With you are doing like edgy and, edgier material. And so with you, I personally think that if you would do more to set up and let people know what kind of person you actually are, that way they can know that you're joking and give you the benefit of the doubt instead of taking you seriously, which is a lot of times what people will do with us as stand-up comedians. Like they'll think that everything we're saying has to be 100% true, has to be 100% the way we feel, and no part of it could possibly be a joke. But if you let them in and you're like, kind of let them see behind the curtain and understand that this is you being silly, this is you joking, this is your sense of humor, I really do feel like that would help you personally out a lot. And also, like I said, I know you don't want to do the introducing yourself and letting them know about yourself, or that's kind of something that you seem a little resistant to. I personally don't know what to tell you if you just kind of want to jump steps and be like, okay, well, I just want to be edgy and not introduce myself. I really can't help you with that because my best advice, honestly, would be to humanize yourself for them a little bit first and then go into the edgy, but you want to do it your way, so do it your way, Ahmed. Okay, Chuck Fury, who's a friend through the internet, writes, question, which festivals are best for edgy and or blue comics? I just view myself as a comic because I just write what is funny to me. Sometimes it's clean, often it's not. But it is obvious from the feedback I get and hate mail from a religious family member that I am definitely in the edgy category. Also, do festivals pay? If so, which ones? I know they have application and or entry fees, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I really have to be selective about shows that pay because I'm so broke. I'll do Wise Guys show in a heartbeat because what it does for my career is immeasurable, and there are a lot of comics that would pay for that spot if they could, but I usually won't do an unpaid bar show unless there is an obvious benefit. I have to pay the bills, and I'm a broke bitch. Some of these may sound like rookie questions, but that's because I'm a rookie. Thanks and much love. Okay, Chuck, here's the deal. As far as festivals that are good for edgy or blue, I would say the same festivals that I said last week that people should check out. World Series of Comedy doesn't really seem to care too much about content as far as whether or not you're clean or dirty. And that's a good one, in my opinion, for working comics because it will actually get you road work. I wouldn't count on quite as many dates as they say you're going to get, and that's just because bookers change, things happen, but you can meet some really great contacts at World Series of Comedy, and you can get to know a lot of the bookers on a more personal level, so that's also a benefit to World Series of Comedy. People are usually here in Vegas all week for that. You can usually get rooms pretty inexpensive here in Las Vegas if you have a good eye, if you're willing to scour the internet a little bit. but World Series of Comedy does not pay. Even if you win, it doesn't have like a lump sum cash payment. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Big Sky, I think you win. I know it was like $5,000 at one point. Then it was $3,000 at one point. I don't know what Big Sky is, but Big Sky, there are cash prizes for top three, I believe, maybe even top five. Who knows? I know I did it. It was a good experience. It's a good way to meet people. Again, there's good industry going out there. Slow Comedy Festival also is a decent comedy festival, but Slow doesn't offer any kind of money. They had been getting more and more industry out there, like towards when we went into shutdown. I'm not sure what's been going on there lately. I know that festival is a good time, but you're going to pay for your hotel room while you're there. So that's something to keep in mind. And there are certain comedy festivals that actually do pay. I know Montreal pays. I'm not sure how much they pay. A lot of the comedy festivals will actually pay depending on who you are and what you've done. So I guess that's something to look into. But usually the paid spots that I've noticed haven't been for submission spots. That's more if they invite you to go. So this is the one that I was talking about when I said if I don't know that much, I won't offer a lot, because I haven't really been paying attention to festivals at all for probably the last 3 or 4 years. I just haven't, I don't really pay attention to what's going on in the festivals. I'm not saying that there are no festivals that I'd be interested in doing, but at the same time, I'm not really on the lookout. I don't have my eyes peeled for festivals. And unless somebody were to just invite me to do one, I'm probably not going to be on a festival, because I'm really not sure what any of the festivals that you would submit for would be able to do for me at this particular point in my career. That's not me being snotty. That's not me having my nose in the air. It's just I'm in a similar position to you. I wouldn't say I'm broke, but at the same time, I would say that I do have to be aware of what I'm doing with my money, because it does take the investment of not only the submission fee, but also the cost to put yourself up, the cost to travel to whatever city the festival is in. So there are a lot of expenses there that I don't necessarily want to incur, and that's just where I'm at with it. But I do appreciate you always watching and commenting, Chuck, and saying good things about me in your home city, which I've heard about from your friends, and I definitely do appreciate it. Okay, so those are our questions. If anybody has any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I will answer questions. In case you haven't noticed, I have been being very good about that. So what I wanted to tell you guys to keep in mind when you're listening to Comedy Tip Tuesday, or if you're watching anything to do with stand-up comedy, as far as like a master class, or you're taking classes with somebody, the main thing I want you to remember is that, yeah, it's always good to take good advice, and it's always good to learn more about your field. But at the same time, if you notice that something isn't going to be particularly helpful for you, or if you notice something doesn't particularly apply to you, don't do it just because somebody told you to do it. In those cases, you should use your own judgment, and you should do what you know is going to be best for you and what's going to be best for your process. Because stand-up comedy is the kind of thing where there's a million different roads to get to where you're going. There's also a billion different little side roads to get to where you're going. And whatever combination it is that gets you there is what you should do. Don't necessarily take anybody's advice, not even mine, when it comes to every single thing. Like the thing I said with Ahmed. If Ahmed wants to go ahead and figure out how to do things his way and, go at it just edgy from the beginning and come hard right out the gate, then go ahead and do that. Like, that's not something I would discourage you from. I just would say that that's not something I would be the best at giving advice on. And that's me being honest with you about what my specialties are, or where it is I would come at it from. With a lot of things, I would say that, if I say, like, it's hard to get on the road, and you're like, I'm in the Midwest, because I know a lot of the people in the Midwest, like Ohio, Illinois, some of those particular states in that area, I can't even remember that little clump, but those states, some of you guys get on the road super fast. That's what I've noticed. You guys will just end up on a bunch of stuff and really getting to work the road at a point where a lot of us that are in the coastal states would take longer to get on the road. So don't necessarily listen to me and everything I say, or like I said, anybody else. If you know that there's a different way for you to go, or there's a path that you see where you can get what you want and you can have it be just as effective as anything you're hearing from anybody else, then definitely do trust your gut, trust your instinct, and take that road. That's what I would say. Anyway, that's your Comedy Tip Tuesday. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got something from me answering the questions for the other comedians. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.